You've got the Bad Boy dealer titling a video, Bad Boy Rogue Ferris Killer. Hear me out. I try to be the most impartial person on the internet when we're talking about mowers. I could equally as comfortable be a Ferris dealer. I absolutely love this product right here. Hear me out while I am calling this Bad Boy Rogue a Ferris killer, because we're gonna go with a really in-depth comparison on these two models. And yes, I am a Bad Boy dealer. I absolutely love Ferris. You can check out a video we did talking about all of the 2025 models and which top 5 I would pick. Both of these models were in there. There were certainly a lot of comments in those videos talking about these two mowers being known as the best suspension you can get. Now there's a lot of different systems. We also sell Toro. Toro makes a My Ride, which is incredibly comfortable as well. But there's a uniqueness to how Ferris, and they definitely started this whole suspension system. There's a uniqueness to how they're running their suspension, and Bad Boy has come out with this system later than that, but there's a lot of very similar components and things that really equate the ride qualities between these two machines. So without further ado, let's jump into a comparison on these two models. Let's start with the company that came out with this very innovative system first, with Ferris, with this coil over shock system. They're putting this coil over shock on the front left, front right, along with the rear of this machine, giving you independent rear suspension, stuff we've only talked about on cars, ATVs, all sorts of different things like that. On a lawnmower, to have this kind of suspension is just next level. And there's a lot more to a mower than just the suspension, but the whole reason for this video is talking about suspension. We'll talk about it all in this video. We'll talk about those engine options. We'll talk about the transmissions. We'll talk about accessibility, decks, spindles, all of it. But we gotta go into the nitty gritty on this conversation, talking about suspension first. So it's really unique with Ferris, what they do on this whole ride, because this platform is not connected to this outer suspension piece. And so the whole rider is independently suspended from what's actually happening with these wheels on the ground. And you know, I've done this in some videos just to kind of show you what that does, how that absorbs you. And it's the same thing if you imagine going over bumps here, that it is going to only affect this tire, with the rider not feeling the brunt of everything going on. And you can see what happens, you know, as I kind of jump around this machine, with how much it's really absorbing you, and that happens on both sides. So that in and of itself on a lawnmower, it's really unique. And why do I compare it to the Bad Boy Rogue? Let's go over and take a look. So similar ideas, and hear me out on this, to this comparison between these two mowers, but you have an independent arm that's on this machine, and if I was strong enough to lift this up, you would see this kind of swivel, you know, from a point in here. Now, it doesn't do it nearly as much, but right here, you're gonna see that it does absorb you. Again, this is a much more affordable way to do it, you know, just have some rubber bushings. But if I go to the back of this machine, I'm actually gonna go and flip the seat up. Same thing, you got rubber bushings that are back here, and that is way more subtle, I think, than what Ferris is doing. But this is where, you know, the innovation that Ferris went through and did the coilover shock system, Bad Boy went to another level that, again, no one else in the industry is doing when we look under this machine. So let's look underneath the Rogue right now. And this is where the magic of this machine happens, because you've got these 3-link trailing arms, very much like you see in the car in the automotive world. And the same thing sort of happens. I'm gonna leave the camera under here, but if I kind of go on the rear of this machine and give it a little bit of weight, you see how much absorption that gives you. And it's doing a very similar thing as to what you saw those rear coils over on the Ferris side. So point blank, which one has the better ride quality? And again, this is me being as impartial as I possibly can be to you guys. I actually like this ride system ever so slightly more. It's really close for me, but obviously when we talk about a rubber bushing, you know, versus a coil over shock, that is a much more robust, and it has a lot more travel to it, right? But when you talk about the 3-link trailing arms and you go to the rear, to me that rear suspension of both these machines, between the rubber bushings you get with Bad Boy and that 3-link arm, they are very similar. It's no doubt that up front you're getting a little more suspension, but when you think about where the user is on the whole machine, they are much more to the rear of that. And so because of that, these ride very closely. But I titled the video, this is a Ferris killer, the Bad Boy Rogue. Why do I say that? It's something that Bad Boy does so uniquely in the industry, and it gives you a lot of these premium type things. We haven't talked about the rest of the machine, but it does at a price point that does not break the bank. And I say that we're talking about a $12,000 lawnmower here. So this sells for $12,399 with this high-end engine setup, which I think is pretty darn comparable to what's on this ISX 3300 by Ferris. The difference is, and without me being a Ferris dealer, it's hard for me to say. You guys could probably point out and tell me to a T what these sell for, but I believe this is an $18,000 lawnmower. Looking across at what dealers are, pricing things at, this is more around that $17,999 price point as far as what I could see. Now that has a Kawasaki fuel injected 38.5 horsepower engine, and this one has a 40 horsepower Briggs. It's the Vanguard series with the oil guard. All sorts of videos we've done on that topic you can check that out in the description as well to see those videos, because we break down just a lot of different things here on the channel. But that in a nutshell is why I call it the Ferris Killer, because I think there's something so incredibly unique in what they're doing with this system right here, but man, you have to pay for it. But I think this is a phenomenal quality product as well. And the fact that you're getting it for around a $6,000 difference is why they've gained so much market share. Bad Boy being one of the fastest growing, I think the fastest growing mower company, which was established in 2002. And a lot of that is because they give you certain features that you either see in other brands or certain things you frankly don't see in other brands, and you get it at a better value. So that's, a big advantage. So that's why I kind of put these, against each other. If money is no object, then by all means, right? But we obviously are always looking at a budget. So that's something that Bad Boy has done really well to get you this price point. We sell Bad Boy, we sell Toro, keep growing, have enough room in the shop. I'd sell Ferris in a heartbeat. I think it's a great product, okay? So don't get me wrong, there's different price points people are looking at, longevity, things like that. So there's a lot of different factors, and there's more to it than just the ride quality. But these to me, as far as how they ride, like I said, we sell Toro. Toro has the My Ride. It's a bit of a recliner type of feel. I know that Skag has a system with their Cheetah. I know that Gravely has a Pro 660, I think it is, and a lot of those have platforms. Some of them, like Toro's, is kind of a rocking sensation, kind of like this recliner type feel. Some of them have independence here that sort of moves one-dimensionally, but the independent suspension on each wheel is what makes both of these two, in my opinion, ride very uniquely, very comfortably on the market. But we got to go a little beyond just talking about that ride quality, talk about the other features on this mower. Ferris, I think, is definitely known for a very premier quality, and as you look around the components and just the build quality, there's a lot to like, when you walk around a Ferris lawnmower. And one thing I always talk about being a Bad Boy dealer is the accessibility, the access to different points, and I actually think Ferris does that very well, with this machine as well. This is incredibly open. I've talked about in other videos as well, when you can have two different reservoirs and you don't have to worry about cross-contamination, that's something that's an advantage. But this is definitely a very open machine, very accessible. Before I flip this up, you talk about this really nice suspension seat with the dial system. They even give you a headrest. That's something that's unique, something that just Ferris is doing. But I think the accessibility, this is a monster compartment right here and enough room to get the oil guard system, and with a few bolts you could gain total access back here. So I think as far as accessibility, which I'll show real quick over on the Bad Boy side, before I go over there, it's just spinning this dial and it's really secure that I can get access to the deck as well. With Bad Boy, it literally is a matter of just flipping it up, and you do have to remove this one piece here, but easy to get access to that point. But I showed it earlier in the video, that openness, I think just a little bit better because the Ferris system kind of has it here and a really industrial type pump setup. Another advantage, when you think about the ride quality or just what it feels like when you're moving, because that's something you think about with suspension, a unique thing that the Bad Boy Rogue has is it has a separate pump and wheel motor setup. So that Ferris had that unitized setup, meaning the pump and the wheel motor all within one house, made by Hydro Gear with a ZT5400 transmission. It's the best of the best as far as what you can get for a unitized transmission and pump with Hydro Gear. I like the old school setup. You'll see this on a lot of older mowers when you have a separate pump and wheel motor. This is a Parker wheel motor. I've talked about it as well in past videos, but the Parker wheel motors are innately smooth. And so when you think about that ride quality, the smoothness of the turning and things like that is something you're getting within this system as well. When you get this 38.5 fuel injected engine, they have a very nice display screen that gives you maintenance intervals, and you can get carbureted, you can get fuel injected, and I think that would be the same over there, different engine options. When you get into these higher end electronically fuel injected engines, it can come with some perks like that. I know if you don't get the fuel injected model, you get a simple hour meter that's on there. And I'm gonna step up onto this. I'm talking about the coilover shock system and this independent arm. This has two arms that are actually coming over and giving that suspension as well. So as I step up here, I like the feeling of a Ferris, and this depends on, some people like to sit lower, some like to sit higher. I'm 6'8", so I naturally feel like I like being above and be able to see things a little bit more. Both of these have just a ton of room in them. When you're getting onto this big commercial mower, if you're a bigger guy, both of these systems give you, plenty of space in here. So both do these deck dial systems a little bit different on here. So this has a little spring-loaded piece that if I press this and press it over, it will drop it to whatever deck height that I've got. I like that system, and just being able to grab a pin and move, where that deck height is going to be positioned. And to me, it's just a really simple way, to lift the deck. They give you some really big springs here that also help with lifting the deck up and down. And then when we move down to that deck region, they have what's called their ICD Plus deck. It's got that slope nose edge. Ferris, again, kind of known to me as like a real premium quality product, is known for really nice quality of cut. And optionally, you can get a striping flap on the back or a roll bar, things like that. So you look for the striping effect. As we move over to Bad Boy, that's one nice thing that is a standard with that Bad Boy mower. So let's player hop back and forth game. Let's go over to this Bad Boy side. A little bit different system if we kind of come around here to how that deck lifts up and down. Again, I liked that visual nature of what you got with Ferris. So this has a system that you can just spin it around. So to me is real simple. I think Kubota out there has a similar system to this, and John Deere. So there are, Toro has a similar system with what's over there in the Ferris. And so a lot of these companies, it seems like do similar things to what others do to lift it up and down. So with this one, you're gonna set the deck where you want it. And if you press this and then push it up, then it will go ahead and drop to that desired height that you got, and then it won't be able to move at all. And then you can move it up to the transport position, somewhat similar. Like I said, I feel like when I'm sitting in the seat, I'm sitting just a little bit lower than the Ferris. Not that that's good or bad. As long as I've got enough room, like I said, me as a bigger guy, I like I think sitting up and having a little bit more leg room. I get that with the Ferris, but still, some of these, with how big I am, all have issues with it hitting my knees or things like that, and I've got absolutely no issues. I've got a lot of room in here, and just like any of these systems, you can move a seat forward and backwards. You're getting a nice suspension seat with the dial in either case. Now to think about the fuel capacity, with Bad Boy, you're getting 6.5 gallons of fuel capacity on each side, a total of 13 gallons. I think over on the Ferris side, they do it in liters. The conversion in liters was about 10.8 gallons. So really good fuel capacity, probably for either of them. Bad Boy wins that battle by a little bit. And we mentioned the deck over on the Ferris side. Bad Boy actually has some of a similar look to the deck with this slope nose edge. Both of them have protectors on each side of those wheels there, just so it's not easy to break off with your anti-scalp wheels. And then real big selling feature to the Bad Boy is the fact that they have a 3-gauge deck. If you look at this deck, it's incredibly thick. It's the thickest that's in the industry. Ferris, and I think a lot of different brands, will do 10-gauge as their commercial top-of-the-line system. And then there's just things that you see that Bad Boy tries to do kind of from that styling perspective and this kind of heavy-duty, rugged feel, that they're getting some really monster components. You see with these caster wheels how big and heavy-duty some of those components are, which is really nice. And I get into the specs. I love the specs. I could talk about them all day long, but really the point of this video was not to go incredibly, far on each of those comparisons, but it's the ride quality between these is so similar. The fact that they are independently suspending every single wheel, they do it in a slightly different way, but that feel very similar. You are getting that at an amazing price point over on the Bad Boy side. And with Ferris, phenomenal product, but it is gonna cost you more to get into that. So Is that worth the extra cost savings? I don't know. What do you guys think? Is it worth that extra bit? I'll say we've signed on with Bad Boy. It was about 1.5 years, almost 2 years now. And we sell tons and tons of these Rogues, because what we see is this will work well, you know, in commercial application, but for a homeowner to think about spending, you know, $15,000 to $20,000, that's a lot. That's a big gulp you got to take, you know, when you're buying a lawnmower. And you can look in a lot of different brands, and you can get that at, you know, a $10,000 or $12,000 price point, not get near the mower, not near that level of suspension. Ferris does absolutely have mowers. You know, they're in that price point, but it's not going to have the big block engine, and it's not going to have quite the frame design that you're seeing on this. So you can definitely get some, you know, Ferris is well under $10,000. It's just, we try to go model for model, spec for spec, you know, on the channel. And I think these are very equivalent as far as transmission systems and engines, and obviously with that really high-end suspension element like we talked about. So don't shoot the messenger. Obviously, I'm a Bad Boy dealer, right? There's no problem with the Ferris lawnmower, but there's definitely just a ton of value you get over on the Bad Boy side. So as always, thank you for watching. Until the next video, we'll see you.